let's add link. That's nice. One day I'm gonna get better at the streaming stuff so I can not take 3 minutes to log in or to get started. But it's telling me that this link isn't interesting. It's not a valid URL. Crazy. It took so much to start the stream today. Like, nothing is working, and I have no idea why. Nothing's working. Why doesn't this work? How did it work last time? It's not working this time. Interesting. Let's see, why don't we do this? Let's go here. Actually, let's go to my channel. Go ahead and mute that. And then send this to myself. Let's see, bear with me, y'all. All right. Make sure everything is going good. Got IntelliJ up. Okay, make sure y'all can see this. Can I do a default on this? Dang. Huh, well, whatever. Okay, so I got a couple of things on my list to do today. Number one is, let's see, I had took some notes. So we need to, let's say, since invoice schedule no longer holds payment terms, find a way to get the payment terms that correspond to the expected invoice in order to calculate the due date. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So basically how the app works is you have 3 domain objects. I'm doing domain driven design within a hexagonal architecture. Sounds like a bunch of buzzwords. I'm learning my way through it. But basically I have these 3 right here: the vendor, the invoice schedule, and the expected invoice. And the way that it works pretty much is you would go ahead and create a vendor, and then that vendor has invoice schedules attached to it. Based on those invoice schedules, expected invoices are generated. So say I go in, I make a vendor for internet, right? And that internet bill is due once a month. So that invoice schedule is going to tell the system when to generate that invoice, so that I can look at a dashboard and say, and see that, oh, okay, I should be expecting this right now. And if I don't, then, if I don't see it, then go and look for it. If I don't have it, and I'm not able to mark it as received, it'll eventually be flagged as missing. So right now I made a change because the invoice schedule and the vendor had payment terms, a field basically called payment terms, which is just an enum that defines like net 10, net 30, net 10, or net 5, net 0, which is basically just saying when is the payment due. So I have a function here that's called calculate due date, or method, that just calculates the due date, right? And it's based on the expected receive date and the payment terms. Now that I don't have the expected invoice, or I don't have payment terms within the expected invoice, I need to find a way to reference that from the vendor, since I messed that up. I should have said I don't have payment terms on the invoice schedule, which is a direct child of the vendor. So now I need to query the vendor, grab the invoice, or grab the payment terms, and then pass that into the calculate due dates method here, which I don't really like. I understand how to do it, but I don't know if that's the best approach, to be honest. I really don't. Like I said, I don't really like that idea or that approach. Damn, yeah, it took everything away. Okay. I'm trying not to use AI as much, and I definitely, by use AI, I never wanted writing any of my code really while I'm learning, but I will pick its brain per se to help me when I'm stuck. Like here, I thought that I was done with all of the use cases and everything, but I ended up using Codex to kind of just go through the code base and let me know if there's anything that I'm missing, or any gaps or any bugs or anything. So that's kind of what I did off stream, and now I'm going in and kind of fixing those things that it suggested. So let's go to this, and this doesn't need payment terms because it's not gonna get them. Don't have them there no more. So let's bring in the vendor gateway as well. So yeah, I think I'm just gonna pull in the vendor like gateway. generated based on the invoice schedule and grab the payment terms that way. Like I said, there might be a better way to do this, but I can't really think of one. That's gonna be a bunch of calls. I don't want to put a query in a for loop. Because what if that thing generates like 100 different invoices? Or, I mean, I don't know if that's a lot, but I feel like there's a better way. Let's see. This is when I would ask chat. So I have like a dedicated project for chat. Right? Can we please? Can we please? Thank you. Yeah, so this is a prime example of what I would do with chat. Okay, so taking a look at this file that I'm about to share with you, I need to find a way to grab the vendor that would be the parent of each invoice schedule, so that I can grab the payment terms from it, so that I can pass it into the calculate due date method. The concern that I have with this is that putting a query inside of a for loop seems kind of dangerous and maybe expensive. And am I right on that? Is that actually expensive or is that dangerous? Because who knows how many invoices will be generated based on this one method. And if that is the case, then what would be a better way to go about doing this? I really even need it to be this big. Okay, yes, your instinct is right. A query inside this loop can become an n+1 query problem. Intuition, because I surely know. Surely get that. Right now, you already loop over every active invoice schedule, then every generated expected receive date. If you also query, you get one query, load active, in queries, load vendor for each schedule, in m queries. Check existing expected schedules or expected invoices. That can become expensive as schedules grow. It is not dangerous in the sense that it will immediately break, but it is a back-end smell because performance quietly gets worse as data grows. In an interview, this is exactly the kind of thing they expect you to notice. Well, maybe we're on the right path. We're on the right path. Let's see. In your current file, the clue is here. Invoice schedule already has get payment terms. That might be the key I need right there. So wait, invoice schedule, I should be able to call that from the domain. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so great point. I stopped. Well, let's see. Maybe I should read it all before I get excited. The better options are best direction load schedules with the data needed for the use case. The second one is cleaner because the service does not care about joins. It cares about the data needed to generate invoices. Do not make the core service think in SQL. Inside the core use case, avoid thinking I need to query vendor by ID. Think I need active invoice schedules with payment terms available. The infrastructure adapter can use a join. Also watch this existing query. Interesting. Okay. Also watch this existing query. This one is already inside the nested loop. That can also become expensive. Stronger design will load all existing expected invoices for the target month in one query, then compare in memory. Okay, so this mug is telling me I should probably refactor this whole method. Load all active schedules needed for generation. Load all existing expected invoices for the month. Loop through active invoice schedules to produce all invoices within parameters date range. Says your concern is valid. I will not add a vendor lookup inside the loop. I just adjust the gateway so this use case receives invoice schedule data with payment terms already included. this? Okay, but the issue is that you'll see in the invoice schedule file that I'm sharing with you, I removed payment terms from the domain object of invoice schedule because I did not want it to be updated. But now that I think about it, I probably could add it back and just only allow it to be gotten, like get method. You know what I'm saying? No set method. Which is how the rest of the app has been working anyway. I don't understand why I did that. But the thing is, I don't think that I would be able to add a query inside the domain object of invoice schedule to actually grab the payment terms. It could be smack dead in my face, and you probably just you probably just told me to query it with to query it with JPA or whatever with SQL. But something's not clicking. I get that I should probably load everything that I need and then perform whatever calculation I need within the for loops rather than calling something, querying something within a for loop. I definitely understand that. But I need a way to get the payment terms. That is my biggest blocker right now. Let's see. Careful what that means. Invoice schedule does not own payment terms. Vendor owns payment terms. But this use case needs payment terms while processing invoice schedules. So you have two reasonable options. Option 1, add payment terms to invoice schedule as loaded data. No updater, no setter. But conceptually, that means your invoice gateway must load invoice schedules joined with vendor payment terms. So the domain object does not do this. Exactly. The gateway adapter does this behind the scenes. Select invoice schedule fields plus vendor.payment terms. From invoice schedule, join vendor on invoice schedule.id. Then it maps the result into probably the easiest fix. Create a use case specific object. Invoice schedule for generation comes with those fields. Then your gateway method becomes find all active invoice schedules for generation. This is actually my preferred direction because this does not need the full invoice schedule aggregate. It needs a generation view. That part should click. You are right that this should not happen inside the domain object. Exactly. Yeah. That would make the domain depend on persistence, bad direction, right? Instead, this should happen before the loop. Find all active with payment terms. Then inside the loop, you just do, right, no database call inside the loop. One more important correction to your current code. Right now, this line cannot work. Bro, yes, that's what we're fixing. also your invoice schedule still imports payment terms, but the field is gone. Alright, yeah, tell me stuff that I already know. Appreciate you. So I guess we add this back. And now we're gonna have to fix this, wherever that is. That should break a bunch of things. I'm just gonna make this bigger so that everybody can see it. I don't necessarily know how this looks, so. Okay, so let's add, yep. Whew. Public payment terms. Okay. So now, may not even need the vendor gateway, but we might need to join on the invoice schedule. Just leave it there for now, just in case we need it. Let's see, so this says, oh wow, it is extremely small on stream. Create a use case specific object. This may be cleaner long term. Invoice schedule for generation, which takes that. I mean, this is, yeah, I mean, I have that here. That is this. This thing is having me second guess everything today. Because what if I am bringing in too much into this result object? Let me see, because the invoice schedule, what do I need to create a new one? I need the ID, the vendor ID, track the invoice key, recurrence rule. when I generate one, that's the expected invoice. Yeah. All I need is the note, due date, expected receive date, schedule ID, and the rest should be derived. So when I create them here, I'm passing in the same thing. But why do I need all of this? Why do I need all of this? Why do I do this? Map it and add to list of expected invoices. So what I'm doing now is if expected invoice exists by expected receive date and invoice schedule ID, retrieve it, map it. What is the result? Oh, because that's what's getting passed back to the I think that kind of makes sense. Yo, what's up, Karen? Bro, it's been a minute. It's been a minute, man. I've been seeing you with the ink, man. You've been going crazy. You're going crazy. Nah, for real. Nah, I think, bro, my favorite, like, real. I don't know if you're on TikTok. I'm an old man, bro. I don't be on there, but what I don't know, bro. You did something. You jumping about to punch Shorty, bro. That was sounds crazy, but for the jokes, man, for the jokes. But that was funny. Let's see. Oh man. How do I get this? How do I get this stuff going? Let's see. So the clean idea is invoice schedule does not own payment terms. Vendor owns payment terms, right? But this use case needs payment terms while processing invoice schedules. He said, I don't know nothing about coding, but I had to say it was if I had home. Type shit. Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you. It's all good. I know it's like it's niche as hell, bro. But I appreciate it, man. Everything going good over here, man. Javon in there sleep right now. So I'm about to say I have him pop in, but yeah, he knocked out. But you go ahead, man. I'm about to say, get home safe, my boy. Much love, man. Appreciate you tapping in. Yeah, okay, I'm just playing around on this bit right now. I need... Where's option 1 and option 2? Invoice schedule ID. Load schedules with the data needed. Right. So load all active schedules needed for generation. Load all existing expected invoices for the month. So that's going to be the first one. That's going to be an issue. Load all active schedules needed for generation. Load all active needed for generation. Let me see something. I'll be right back. And we back. If I can type. Okay. Load all of them needed for generation. So find by all is active is insufficient. I need a better query. Invoice is not on payment. Yeah. Select invoice schedule fields plus vendor.payment terms. From invoice schedule, join vendor on invoice schedule. Okay, create a use case specific object. This may be cleaner long term. Let's see. Okay, so for the, hold on, y'all, I'm getting a call. Yo. I am. I'm on stream right now. Nah, man. I'm about to say I'm on stream. I might have to hit you back.
You good? You good? Do your thing.
All right, bro. Bet. Um, where was I at? Oh yeah, I was about to ask chat. Okay, so I would like to go with option 2, which is create a use case specific object, which I thought I had in the results object. Yeah, I thought I had that in result object already. So are you referring to something different than what I have? And I also see that you chopped off a bunch of the fields that I had on there. Like you only had the fields as the invoice schedule ID, the tracked invoice key, recurrence rule, and the payment terms. So then I would then have to load, because I would have to eventually send those to the controller, basically. And my thought would be to send the full expected invoice and all its fields. Or should that be just another use case where, and that use case is going to end up calling this use case, if that makes sense. So it'd be one use case to call all to grab the expected invoices, and then another use case to that's solely focuses on generating the use cases. Because my issue might be is that I'm trying to combine two functions into one method, or two operations into one method. And then so the way that I have it now, you're saying, so like load all of the active schedules needed for generation. Does that mean, I mean, is that the same as loading all the active schedules? Like I have find all by is active, so that gives me all of the active schedules. And then are you saying to have another query that takes that list and kind of shortens it down to those ones that are within the month that I'm looking for? And then once I have that list, I grab all of I make sure that they have the payment terms, and then I would end up calling the calculate for the newly generated invoices. I feel dumb right now. Yeah, let's take that off. I don't need your sympathy. Don't need the sympathy. Let's see. Yeah, but I definitely feel like I'm losing it right now. Let's see. Okay, so the result object that is an output object, its job is to return data after the use case finishes. Right. What I meant is an input slash read model for the use case. Something the gateway returns before generation happens. Got it. Think of it like this: invoice schedule for generation, used internally by servers to generate invoices. Great. Then generate expected invoices for month. Use case results. And then that returned outward after generation slash listing. They are not the same object. Got it. Okay, your new object will only represent data needed to perform the generation. Okay. I chopped off fields intentionally because generation does not need everything. It only needs enough to answer for this schedule what expected receive dates exist this month. For each date, what due date should be calculated. What key slash name do I return in the result? Okay. The result object can still have more fields because it is for the controller. Yes. Now to your bigger point. Yes, I think you are noticing a possible use case design issue. Right now, the method is doing two things: generate missing expected invoices for a month, return the full list of generated expected invoices for that month. That is not automatically wrong. In fact, for an MVP slash internal tool, it may be okay, but conceptually, these are different operations. Yeah. Or if you want one button to generate and then show results, the controller app layer can call generate first, then list. But I would not have the generate use case secretly become a full reporting slash listing use case forever. For your current question, does load all active schedules needed for generation mean the same thing as load all active schedules? Almost, but not exactly. Your current method, find by all, is active, means give me active invoice schedule domain objects. Yes. What I'm suggesting is more specific. Invoice schedule gateway, find all active schedules for generation, meaning give me active schedule generation data, including vendor payment terms. It does not necessarily mean filter by month in SQL. The month filtering may still happen here. That is domain logic, so keeping that in Java is fine. The important change is this: not plain text, but do not load active schedules, then query one by one. Load active schedules with payment terms already attached. Okay, so your flow becomes gateway loads active schedules for generation with payment terms included. Service lookups or service loops through those schedules. Service asks recurrence rule for dates within year month. Service calculates due dates based on payment terms. Service creates missing expected invoice records. Separate list slash query use case. Returns full UI data. Okay, so let me see. So I guess my question would be like, how do I how do I do this here? Load active schedules with payment terms already attached. Yeah, let me ask. So I think what's tripping me up is how do I load active schedules with the payment terms already attached if vendor owns payment terms? Um, there's a well, I'm trying not to think in SQL, in terms of SQL, but that would require a join, as you mentioned, because it's not on the same table. So the hmm. So the use case, or not even the use case, the gateway method should signify, or if I can do it, you could just create the method using JPA's naming convention. I'm kind of scared to do that, to be honest. I don't want it to create no crazy crap. Yeah, I think that's the thing that I'm getting stuck on the most. It's like, how do I load the active schedules with the payment terms already attached? I think that's why I took this approach when I created this method that loops through the expected invoices. And then queries within that loop to grab the payment terms. So you're saying that I should basically have the gateway method return all of that. In one call to the DB. Yes, that is exactly it. The gateway method should return all schedule generation data in one DB call. Right. But the key distinction, but the key is this distinction. Core use case says, give me active schedules prepared for generation. That line is what's tripping me up. I'm not gonna lie. Infrastructure decides I'll use a SQL/JPA join to get vendor payment terms. Your core should not care that vendor owns payment terms in a database. Your core only cares that generation requires payment terms. I don't want to create a headache for myself at the when it's time to implement the infrastructure. And I don't like this name of find all active schedules for generation. That object could contain, yep. Then your loop becomes simple. Because there's no, yeah. DJ, let's just get rid of all of this because this is, hold on. Let's zoom out for a little minute and let's get rid of all of this. Let's start from scratch. So This is not what I was expecting to do today, but it has to get done. Okay. I'm missing something. Oh. The JPA adapter would do the ugly part. This is exactly what I was talking about. It's exactly what I was talking about. Do not use a derived JPA method for this. I agree with your hesitation. I would not try to force this into a long-term method name. Okay, that gets nasty fast. For this use case, use an explicit query / projection in the infrastructure layer. Something conceptually select new invoice schedule for generation. From the join. Yeah. Then the adapter maps that projection into your core object. The important architectural point, invoice schedule for generation is not owned by vendor. It is a read shape for this use case. So yes, even though vendor owns payment terms, your read query can still include. Okay. That works, but it scales poorly and create. Oh, wait, I skipped one. That is not violating DDD. That is normal application design. Okay. The red flag would be this for the schedule, what I was doing before, querying it within that. That works, but it scales poorly and creates the n+1 problem you already sniffed out. So your mental model should be domain ownership, vendor owns payment terms. Use case data requirement, generation needs payment terms. Okay. Let's see if we can actually put some code down. Let's go here and let's add that. What do we call it? Invoice schedule for generation. No. I like that name. That's literally it. Invoice schedule for generation. Let's create a record. Invoice schedule for generation. Okay, and so this would then take in the UUID of invoice schedule ID, and then the vendor ID recurrence. Okay, so I guess I don't need the vendor ID because of the join in the SQL statement. So then we just get the tracked invoice key, the recurrence rule, and the payment terms because that's what's needed. So within the invoice schedule gateway, this should return a list of invoice schedule for generation. And this is a load active schedules for generation. I don't like that. Load active schedules with payment terms, and then we pass in nothing. So this would be a list of invoice schedule for generation. For right now, let's just call it invoice schedules equals invoice schedule gateway dots with payment terms. And then now you're saying that I should so now that we have the payment terms, it loops through those schedules. Okay, so for invoice schedules, what is this? What's wrong? What am I doing? Am I tweaking? Is that not a, what am I, what do you mean it's not a statement? Oh. So now for each one, I need to call the calculate due dates. So if I call calculate due date, I need to create a date for it. Due date equals calculate due date. I need to add expected receive date on here. Expected receive date. So then it would be invoice schedule dot expected receive dates and invoice schedule dot payment term. So now we grab the due date for it, and then we would. Okay, so let me think about this. So we grabbed all of them with the payment terms included. And then we grabbed the due date for all of those. And then where's dates within? What is that from? It's in the recurrence rule. So now that we have the due date, if invoice schedule dot dates within it's a boolean. I mean, it's a list. It returns a list. Maybe this could be another nested one. Since we're not querying anything, it shouldn't be too bad. For maybe we don't need. I don't know. Maybe I'm tweaking. Maybe I'm tweaking. Should be. Oh my god. Okay. Oh, I'm doing it backwards. So you loop through those schedules, and then yeah, let's say okay, so you loop through those schedules, and then I should ask for the recurrence rule, ask for dates within. And then service calculates due date using payment terms. This one cooking me, y'all. I ain't gonna lie. Been a long day at work. tired. I may have to come back when I can actually think. Service grades missing expected invoice records. Let me just try what I'm thinking of. I don't necessarily have to even get rid of this. Type to Siri. I don't know right now. Let's do. I just want to see if this even works. Yeah, you can't do it. Understood, because it's not a static. Should I make it static? If I do make it static, yeah, I can't do anchor date. Okay, yeah. Not gonna lie, my boys. Not gonna lie, my boy. I might have to call it, man. I think this is one of those days where I cannot think. So yeah, we got absolutely nothing done today, but further into the hole. So next stream, hopefully I'll have this ready to go. Be ready.